single subject design digital presentation is presented by Gwendolyn Ford. It will address the effectiveness of cognitive behavior therapy as an intervention for impacting symptoms of PTSD in a female. PTSD is defined by the National Center for PTSD as a mental health condition triggered by experiences and visualization of a terrifying event. The symptoms include flashback, nightmares, and anxiety. The behavioral symptoms include agitation, irritability, hostility. The psychological symptoms include flashback, severe anxiety. There are also mood symptoms of inability to feel pleasure, guilt, or loneliness. Sleep symptoms of nightmares and insomnia. There's also common emotional detachment or unwanted thoughts. Symptoms of PTSD. CBT is a short-term analysis with a goal-oriented treatment. It uses a hands-on real-world approach application which focuses on changing the participant's thought process or way of thinking and feeling. This therapy approach will be utilized in the single subject design to determine if intervention impacts the symptoms of PTSD. The CBT utilizes the thought record approach. The questions include where were you, emotion or feeling, negative automatic thought, evidence that supports the thought, evidence that does not support the thought, and an alternative thought, emotion, or feeling. The tool utilized in the record process will rate the emotional feeling from 0 to 100% during the beginning of the thought record and after an alternate thought has been introduced. Current research has stated that the length of employment is directly linked with emotional exhaustion and stress for correction officers. It is also noted that PTSD is regularly reported in correction officers. The Desert Water Correction Outreach nonprofit organization reported that 31% of the U.S. prison guards suffer from PTSD. This was in 2016. New York Times in 2014 also reported the growing number of mental health problems among correction officers. National Institute of Health 2009 stated that the correction officers had a 20% higher PTSD rate than Iraq war veterans. It has been conveyed by the National Center of PTSD that CBT is the most effective type of counseling for PTSD. The research strengths include concept framework, intervention approach, and validation measures. Each inform the chosen design, supporting the application, methods, and validity. Research limitations include limited existing research focused on women correction officers with PTSD, as well as utilizing the implementation of CBT as an intervention to impact its symptoms on females. The hypothesis of the effectiveness of CBT on symptoms of PTSD in one woman, also to determine if the use of CBT interventions can influence the symptoms of PTSD. The purpose of the study is to examine the effectiveness of CBT in treating a correction officer with PTSD. The growing number of Americans identified with PTSD is of great concern for social workers. This type of physical and emotional strain potentially has devastating consequences, and it is imperative that social workers understand the stress caused as a result. This study will assist with supporting the claim that CBT is undoubtedly the most effective PTSD treatment intervention. The research in this area will improve the social worker's ability to assist adults suffering from stress and trauma associated with PTSD, as well as support adults in reaching an understanding of effectiveness measures. The methodology is the ABA design with 2 baseline measurements. It includes weekly measurements taken at home and one with a physician. The intervention will continue for 10 weeks with a total of 20 recorded sessions. The independent variable is cognitive behavior therapy, and the dependent variable is the impact on PTSD symptoms. The online survey sample was conducted and recorded from a New York female resident who was also a former correction officer. The case study focuses on a 53-year-old African American female, retired correction officer who has a daughter and is currently the guardian of her 15-year-old grandson. She has agreed to allow the grandson to receive assistance, but is not willing to disclose her own medical records. The data collected occurred by physician and researcher. These locations for collection are identified as the participant's home and designated clinic. The frequency of collection occurred or baseline were noted on the 1 and 10-week interventions, which were conducted twice weekly. The duration of baseline intervention were no more than 60 minutes and occurred twice for baseline and twice a week for 10 weeks for intervention. Measures used included the impact of event scale revive was used to measure the PTSD symptoms, which parallel with the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual of Mental Disorders. A 5-point scale was utilized with 22 items. Questions extended from evasion, arousal, and unpleasant thought. The Beck Depression and Anxiety interventions used a 4-point scale and included 21 items. Their questions range from distrust, negative thoughts, sadness, and physical problems. Also range symptoms of anxiety, worry, and physical problems. These measures have been utilized in prior research and are endorsed by the National Center for PTSD. The results reported a decline in PTSD symptoms over a time period and also decreased symptoms of depression, anger, and anxiety. Additional CBT improved the treatment of PTSD symptoms in several studies related to correction officers and is merited in the study of one female participant. Prior research has demonstrated that correction officers are still experiencing high level of stress and anxiety. The purpose of the research focused on supporting the basis of CBT and to determine its impact on PTSD symptoms. The potential results included a direct impact on decreasing PTSD symptoms, and future research is required to focus on continued intervention of CBT in women as it relates to PTSD symptoms. This will conclude the single subject design, which addressed the effectiveness of CBT as an intervention for impacting symptoms of PTSD in a female.